Welcome to Ghosting. Hello, my name is Mark Ridges. I came here to tell you guys about a story I have to get off my chest. I'm a 34-year-old male, and when I was a teenager, I had a face-to-face with evil itself. See, before this incident, I never batted an eye to anything supernatural. I never believed in that stuff, and thought it was just used to scare little kids. But this all changed in the second week of November 1999. I was 15 years old, and I had just gotten home from a day of school and playing outside with my friends, the usual teenage stuff. I was a bad kid and usually spent my nights in my bedroom grounded. Well, the call came in to my parents that I had broken a window at a motel just 2 miles away from my house. Word got around, and it was inevitable. I don't know why I did this stuff, but it made me feel a rush inside. Of course, as I got older, it disappeared, but at the time, causing mayhem was my goal, and I had a group of friends that aided me with every so-called mission. But this changed, and I was grounded for 2 months now. The motel threatened to call the cops on my parents and have me taken to a juvenile facility. When my dad got home, he beat the living shit out of me and then sent me to my room. I can still remember his voice and my mom's disappointed tone when she spoke. "Mark, I try my best and you never listen. I think it's best if we sent you somewhere while me and Dad discuss some things." These words made me feel sick to my stomach when I heard them. Divorce had never even crossed my mind, but I realized that every time I did something bad, my mother and father would argue. That night I went to bed with tears in my eyes. I felt bad once and for all and vowed to never do another crime in my life. The next day I completed school and went straight to my room. I would be here for a while, and I might as well make the most of it. Sipping on a cup of water and doing my homework is when I first saw it. I'm going to call the creature that. There are no words in this world that could describe the thing better. Gray, smooth skin with a round, bald head and long legs. Its eyes were human-like and gray in color. It had the build of a medium-sized man, but way taller. Nearly choking on my water, I stood up and looked out the window. I blinked and shook my head, and then looked back at the window. Still there. Darkness swallowed the whole yard except for it. It was tucked in the corner of the yard near the tree line. I lowered the blinds. I did not want it to see me. After this, I went to tell my parents. My foolishness got the best of me, and I spoke irrationally. "Mom, thing in yard. Creature, it's there in the yard." They looked back at me with an annoyed glance. My father broke the silence first. "Son, get back to your room and stop playing games." My heart dropped into my chest. They did not believe me. "No, I'm not joking, guys. There's someone in the backyard." But their facial reactions remained the same. My father was beginning to get red in the face, so my mother quickly said something to cut the tension. "Honey, please go back to your room. This is not a good time." I was done persuading them. Another word could have angered my father, and I would be going to sleep sooner than I thought. When I returned to my room, I crept into bed, making sure not to make a shadow in the blinds. Whatever that thing was, it could try to crawl into my room. That night, I spent an hour or so just laying in the darkness. Was it still there? What did it want? All the questions poured out at the wrong time. Eventually, my body gave out, and the fear subsided into exhaustion. Let's just say that even in my deep slumber, I felt eyes watching me. Sunlight poured into my window and gave a peaceful feeling. It was over. The horrible nightmare was over. I ran toward my window and lifted the blinds. Nobody was standing in the corner of the yard. Maybe it was all a nightmare, or maybe one of the lucid dreams. I went to get ready for school, and while brushing my teeth, I noticed how bad I looked. My eyes had lines under them, and I looked pale. "Jesus Christ, Mark, were you bit by a vampire?" My friend asked me this, snickering. I was at the bus stop when they noticed it. My small group of friends all made a joke out of it, but it was no laughing matter. Yeah, very funny, guys, but I legit got no sleep last night. I saw something in my backyard." This made them laugh even louder now. It pissed me off at the time, but I do not blame them now. How was a teenager supposed to react to this? Anyway, school went by with me looking like a circus attraction. The normal tan face of a teenager was turned into a pale, stressed face of an adult. My teacher even suggested I go to the nurse. I arrived home and sighed heavily. I threw my backpack on the ground and ran up to my room in a hurry. The day had been draining, and I decided to take a nap. A sound woke me, and I heard my parents arguing. I slapped myself out of my dazed state of mind and pressed my ear against my door to listen. The deep voice of my father yelled out in fury, "I come home from work and I can't even get a hello!" It was returned by a shrill voice full of hate and spite. It was my mother. "John, don't go there! Our son is already mentally distraught enough!" They think I'm insane. My eyes filled with tears, and I continued to listen a little more. "Mark has your mother's blood in him. He deserves to be sent away. The military will fix him up, make him a man just like my father did to me." My mother spoke next after some silence. "Can't you see, John? Look at you. Do you really want Mark to be like you? He needs love." My mom was trying so hard to hold on to some hope that I would change. I wiped my eyes and went to go sit on my bed. Looks like I'd be crying myself to sleep tonight. I lifted up the blinds and opened the window to get some fresh air in the room. But then I saw it. The thing was there again. Exact same position and all. All thoughts had cleared at this moment. Fear overtook all of my emotions, and I was paralyzed. It's back again. It wants me. Snapping back to reality, I shut the window and closed the blinds, and then went to bed. It's not real. It's not real. Mark, it's not real. But I knew it had to be now. What did it want from me? Was it trying to scare me? Or was it just looking for a new victim? Blackness encased me sooner than later. When I awoke, I was in the woods behind my house. The cold wind blew against pajamas. Despite the cold, I did not shiver. My body was numb.
"Mark, you have been a bad boy."
The voice was low and croaky. The source of the sound was untraceable. "Who are you? What do you want?" The words never escaped my mouth, but they were heard by whatever was talking.
"I've been watching you for a long time. I think it's time for you to come with me."
My legs began moving deeper into the forest. The darkness was all around me, and I could barely see the trees. I could not control my movements. It was like I was possessed by something. I screamed into the darkness. My cries were unanswered and seemed to stretch on forever through the crooked trees. Then I paused abruptly and just stood still. I was frozen in place, my feet seemingly glued to the ground.
"We have been waiting for you. Now come join us."
I knew where the voice came from now. Its location was right in front of me. Grayness contrasted with the pitch-black night, and the face of it came into my view. A smile formed across its smooth, pudgy face. Its teeth were flat and stumpy, the eyes gray and sad. Drool oozed out of its mouth and dripped off its face into the darkness, only to disappear. Warm skin wrapped against my wrist and hoisted me up in the air. My eyes met the creature's eyes, and it seemed to be staring into my soul.
"Goodbye, Mark."
The last words it said to me that night. When I escaped the nightmare, I was in my bed. Morning had saved me from the terror that haunted my dream, but when I lifted my covers, I realized that it was not a dream. Dirt smeared on the white sheets and dried mud caked up between my toes. Instead of screaming or pausing in shock, I just laid back down. If not for my mom entering the room, I would have missed the bus. Before she entered, I was just blankly staring at the ceiling. I didn't even know what I was doing anymore. Reality seemed to be unknown to me at the moment. "Honey, it's time for school." This made me sit up in my bed, and I motioned for her to come in all the way. "Mom, we need to talk." My mom sat on the side of my bed and waited for me to continue. "I know I'm going to sound crazy when I say this, but I don't care. Mom, I keep seeing someone in the backyard. Something wants me. It wants something from me. Last night it told me to join it. I need help, Mom." When I got it all out, relief hit me. It was off my chest. Relief would not last long because she got up and shook her head in disgust. "Mark, I keep giving you chances and you keep giving me nothing. You are never going to change, just like your father." The anger in her voice was omnipresent and soft-spoken. My heart shattered into a million pieces at that moment. "Mom, please." But my pleas were ignored as she shut the door before I could finish. School went by painfully long that day. My condition was worse, and I looked to be a 50-year-old in a teenager's body. Teachers looked at me with sad eyes, and students with concerned but uncaring stares. In English class, my teacher was going into full detail about the boy who cried wolf. The thought of it made me pause and stare into a whole other world. It was like daydreaming, but with no dreams.
"Mark, can you tell me what led the sheep to getting killed?"
Everyone in the class looked at me, including the teacher. Without thinking, I answered, but I don't think it was the answer she wanted. "Yeah, I know what led to them getting killed." The town people were uncaring and did not answer his pleas for help. They left him mentally broken. The wolf kept killing and spreading evil because of it, and the boy probably went home to kill himself. No emotions came with the statement. In fact, at the time I thought of it as a simple answer. I was not in the right state of mind, and it was painfully obvious. Gasps escaped the mouths of the students, and the teacher dismissed the class 10 minutes early. She asked for me to stay back. What I expected was a concerned question about why I was acting like this. What I expected was a comforting speech to make me feel better inside. What I got was a lecture on how I need to stop trying to be funny.
"Mark, your head is in the gutter. If that's your sense of humor, then you're sick."
There was not enough energy for me to get angry or protest. Who said I was joking? When school was over, I got off at my stop and went to talk with my friends. "Long time no see," Ben said, laughing. His name is the only one I remember. The others have been unimportant to me ever since. I explained to them what was happening in a serious tone. At first, they struggled to believe me. Look at my fucking face. Do I look like I'm joking? This made them stop laughing and start to listen.
"Jesus, Mark, how bad is it?"
Another friend asked. I'll call her Ruby. "It's bad. Real bad. Nobody wants to listen to me. So I want you guys to come with me tonight." Ruby and Ben both agreed, but the others didn't listen. "Fine, if it's that important, then we will come," Ben said, shrugging his shoulders. I told them to meet me at 8 in the front yard. After the conversation, I walked into my house to see my mom drinking wine and sitting alone in the kitchen. I wanted to talk with her so bad, but I did not. She was looking at a picture of something and starting to tear up. I went to my room and sat down. My father had not come home yet, and I wondered where he was. Their divorce was far from my mind at the moment. I just wanted to know if I was sane. I had to know if it was real. This thing was playing with my mind, and it knew damn well what it was doing. My family was falling apart because of it. My grades had been lowered because of it. All I thought about was the damn monster. But tonight that would change. Tonight I had people with me. I knew that if I did not go after it, eventually it would go after me. Before my friends arrived, I could hear my mother walk into her bedroom and not return. Tears welled up again, and 3 trickled down my face. My mom was disgusted with me, and my father had given up hope long ago. What would happen if I prove it's real? Would the thing kill us or my friends? Would it not show up tonight and prove me wrong? Would it leave me alone? Even if I was left alone, my parents still had unsolvable issues. The broken remains of their marriage were beyond repair. A set of knocks at the front door broke my conversation with myself. I hurried over to the door carrying a backpack of various items. A flashlight, kitchen knife, camera, and a cross. Why the cross, you might ask? Well, no, my family was not heavily religious, but I still had it for hope. I greeted them at the door and we spoke briefly. Okay, guys, be careful when walking. The forest gets dark, so follow my flashlight. Ben rolled his eyes, and Ruby just stared at me. I pulled out the flashlight and opened my gate. Before I could reach the backyard, I paused. My heartbeats echoed across my ribs and clattered against my throat.
Let's get it over with,
Ben said, walking in front of me. I walked behind him and peered over the wall into the backyard. The spot where the creature had been was now empty. Blackness filled its spot.
There, we proved it. Nothing is there. Let's go,
Ruby said, shivering. No, we're going in. Ben and Ruby said nothing, and just kept walking with me. I stopped in the middle of my yard and listened to the sound of the woods. Not a single cricket or snake could be heard. No snapping of branches or falling of leaves, just the dead black night. All right, I'm here. Tell me what you want. I know I looked crazy speaking to nothing, but there was something there. It heard me for sure because after I said this, a light filled the empty spot the thing used to inhabit at night. A white light that attracted no moths or beetles. Not a single form of life buzzed around the light. I found it odd because I had to constantly swat away moths from the flashlight's view. I looked back toward my friends to see Ben and Ruby with wide-eyed expressions. Mark, if this is a joke, I swear. Ben said this, almost not getting the words out. I pulled out the knife and held it in my other hand. I made the first move and walked toward the light. My friends moved hesitantly behind me. Before I could reach the light, it disappeared. The forest was poorly lit by the flashlight. I stepped onto the trail and began to walk. Mark, we went deep enough. I think it's time to go back, Ruby said, grabbing my arm and lightly tugging. I shook free of it and kept walking. No, if you want to go back by yourself, go ahead. Ruby and Ben looked at each other and then kept walking with me. Another light appeared right out of nowhere. I paused, now beginning to feel paranoid. The feeling never hit me until now, and I could swear eyes were following my every move. We began moving again, slowly toward the light. I swear every step I took added more paranoia to me. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Again, right before I reached the light, it vanished, leaving more darkness to surround us. The flashlight began to flicker weakly. I knew if it ran out, we would be stuck in the woods with this thing. Guys, we have to hurry. Pick up the pace. I looked back to see Ben, and only Ben. Where did Ruby go? I asked, feeling sick to my stomach. Ben looked around confused, and then began to panic. Oh my God, she's gone! I covered his mouth and whispered to him to quiet down. We have to keep going, Ben. I know it's hard, but we have to. He just nodded slightly and sighed. I began walking forward again, this time worrying about Ruby. If she had walked back alone, then it meant she was by herself with whatever roamed here at night. We had been walking for about 5 minutes, but it felt like years had gone by. After a brief walk of silence, another light appeared. This time it slowly moved forward. We both froze, helplessly waiting to see what the light would uncover. No words were exchanged between us. My heart thudded quickly, not missing a single rhythm. The forest ground was skimmed over by the light, revealing no animals, just dirt and twigs. A foot was seen by the light, large and gray in color with no dirt or marks on it. Ben's mouth dropped open in horror, and I stared at it. The light showed a belly covered lightly with fuzzy, clear hairs. The chest was moving up and down with heavy breaths, but the light paused here without showing the face.
I see you brought friends,
a thick, uttered voice grumbled. I could not speak at all. The fear had rendered me unmovable.
I can't tell if you're brave or stupid.
It won't matter.
Both taste the same.
The voice was unnaturally smooth and spoken for something so inhuman. It was low and croaked out, but it had an accent that made it appear friendly. Who are you? I asked the question to it. It laughed and walked forward. The light revealed its face finally, and it was beyond imaginable. The eyes stared at us for the longest time. Souls seemed to be swirling in the pupils. A long smile, the same smile I saw in my nightmares, was stretched out on its round face. "I am you. You created me." I expected it to say more, but the light flickered out, leaving me and Ben in the dark. I turned around to run, but saw that Ben was already ahead. The footsteps hit the ground heavily behind me, and I let out a slight cry. The thing grabbed my shoulder and lifted me up. I saw nothing but gray eyes, unblinking eyes staring at me. I blindly stabbed into the darkness, feeling it puncture something. Breaking free of the grip, I began running back on the trail, but I could have sworn I heard laughing behind me before I ran. Then silence greeted me as I broke past branches and stumbled over logs, trying to find an escape in the darkness. A scream was heard behind me, the scream of a teenager going through puberty. The voice cracked and began to fade out as soon as it came. This did not stop me. I continued to run until I reached my backyard. Laughter coming at random intervals. Laughter erupted from the darkness of the tree line. I swung the back door open and ran inside, slamming it shut, my house dark and warm inside. I took this time to pause and try and comprehend what had just happened. I wondered why I was not dead at the moment. The thing in the woods could have easily killed me. Full of shock, I walked up the stairs and stopped at my mother's door. There was nothing more than a hug I wanted at that moment. I just wanted to be comforted and told everything was okay. The past few days, my mom looked so stressed and sad. I knocked on the door lightly. When I received no answer, I opened the door and slipped inside. "Mom, I know I've been bad, but I just want to let you know that I'm done with that. Send me off to the military. I don't care anymore. I just want to fix this. I just want love." I spoke these quietly, almost breaking into tears. No tears came. I had cried enough, and I knew this was the end. The tears had been shed, and now they could be saved for the future. I slept right next to my mom in bed that night, my hands locked around her tightly. But when I awoke, she was dead. She was dead before I awoke. She was dead when I told her I would change. The pill bottle laid on the ground right next to her, alongside a pile of vomit. I did not cry at the sight of it, but instead, I started to laugh. Laughing seemed to be all I could do. I laughed because I knew I had been defeated. The creature had ruined my life and killed my friends, leaving me to live with it. In the end, I was better off dead, and it knew that. After I was done staring at her body, I called the police and informed them of her death. She was buried 2 days later, and my father did not show up to the funeral. It was better off without him. Her death had not hit me until later, and that was when it really hurt. There were at least 4 days of the week where I would stay up and think about it. Actually, I still think of it to this day. I was adopted by some Asian couple, and I went on to graduate and have a family. I never told my wife and kids about it. I planned on just keeping my mouth shut until recently. My kids are 11 and 14 years old, and my oldest one just can't seem to stay out of trouble. He always gets into fights at school, and a week ago he got caught on private property. But last night he told me something that shook me to my core. While me and my wife were sitting down watching TV, he came and told us that he saw something. He said he saw something in his window staring at him. I know I'm going to be dead soon, but what I can do is offer help to you. If you have a child, make sure they don't get into too much trouble. If they ever tell you they see something in your backyard, please don't ignore them. Please don't wait until it's too late.